Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto had different versions of himself. A modification of the seal holding back the Kyuubi has surprising consequences. When each choice brings about a new world, what will happen when different possibilities collide? Many Naruto wreaking havoc. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard! Chapter 7, Brutal Reunions. Kakashi. First of all, he had gotten the worst team ever. The last Uchiha, his sensei's son, and the Kyuubi's vessel. The first was acting like Kakashi himself at the same age, by being a total, self-centered asshole, that needed to be handled with care. The second was a carbon copy of the yondaime, in body and mind. He couldn't stop himself from seeing the boy as his old teacher, nor stop remembering the day of his death. Finally, there was Sakura Haruno, her class dead last, clown, and most unsettling student ever. While Kakashi was aware that the Kyuubi wasn't controlling her, no matter what the village was saying, he still knew she was dangerous, but mainly, her constant creepy smile was beginning to annoy him. Secondly, Kakashi was in a very bad situation. Years of working as ninja had immediately made the jounin notice Tazuna's lies. Despite his official story, the bridge builder was obviously fearing an attack. And the awaited ambush finally came in the form of two Chunin, the Demon Brothers, a duo of small fries he had quickly defeated. After requiring an explanation from Tazuna, who had explained them the situation in the Land of Waves, Kakashi had thought about coming back to Konoha to protect his students. However, the rest of Team 7 had decided to continue the mission, Sasuke, to prove his worth, Naruto, to help the citizens of Waves, and Sakura, because she didn't want to hinder her teammates. They had convinced him to finish the mission, and now he was regretting his decision. While the Demon Brothers were small fries, Zabuza Momochi and Kisame Hashigake were two of the deadliest ninjas Kiri had ever produced. And, they were Suiton Specialist, and near a lake. And Kakashi's backup was a team of 3 genin. Yeah, the situation was bad. Hello, Copycat Kakashi, the demon of the mist declared. Honored to meet you. Give us the bridge builder, and we will leave you and your brats alive, we have orders, you see. Kakashi scowled. 2 famous ninjas like you, working for someone like Gato? I would have never expected that from you. Let me guess, you're trying to gather funds for another coup? Of course, Kisame smirked. That, and it gives us the opportunity to fight powerful opponents like yourself. But we are open to diplomacy. Like we're going to let you touch Tazuna-san. Naruto snarled. Kisame chuckled. You know, little boy, it's impolite to interrupt a conversation between adults. They could take it badly. His hold on Samahata tightened. Zabuza snorted. Especially when you haven't killed anyone, unlike us. Yeah, I know from your stance that you're just a bunch of fresh meat, clean and ready to be eaten. Kakashi frowned. As soon as I create an opening, take Tazuna with you and flee, he ordered his genin. They are way out of your league. And you, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, eyeing him, like Sasuke and Sakura. He smiled. Don't worry, everything will be fine, he lied, taking a battle stance, ready to reveal his Sharingan. I can defeat them, but I will need some space. Kisame is known for his destructive way of fighting, and I don't want you nearby. Zabuza laughed. What, are they too weak to fight? They shouldn't be ninjas if they aren't ready to risk their life and go for the kill. The trio stiffened, and especially Sasuke. Oh, I hit a sensitive point? The swordsman asked. You are just fresh meat, aren't you? Clean, untainted by blood, and weak. At your age, we already had blood on our hands. You talk too much, Zabuza, Kisame said. We should attack them now, instead of talking about the past. Zabuza seemed to smirk. Well, you're right. Hidden mist Judd dash. Kakashi blinked. Kisame blinked. Everyone blinked, as a long sword almost impaled the swordsman, in the middle of his jutsu. He barely avoided the fatal blow, which pierced the tree he was standing on, grazing the man's skin below his shoulder in the process, before retracting behind the fences. At the same time, someone threw a kunai at Kisame's head. While the man avoided it easily, the weapon exploded in a puff of smoke, and the treacherous ninja ended up getting clawed in the face by an orange creature. What the fuck is that? Kakashi wondered as he saw Zabuza leaping to the ground, Kisame flying onto the lake, and a blonde teenager wearing an orange cape coming out from the fences and attacking the demon of the mist with the Rasengan? Yes. Blood, sweet, red nectar, we want to taste it. More screams. More pain. The orange creature roared, before staring at Team 7. It looked like a monstrous mix between a fox and a man. New praise, awaiting death. And we want them to die. No. A bandaged blonde girl shouted as she emerged from the fences and put herself between the fox and Kakashi's group, who was watching the situation without really understanding what was happening. They are the client's bodyguards. They are the team that Konoha has sent to protect the bridge builder. They are our allies. The enemies are the swordsmen. Yes, they have the same blades as that Amaterasu bastard. The creature muttered. We will take out our nerves on them, and wear their heads as trophies. Good, the blonde girl replied, before staring at Kakashi's team, especially at the bridge builder. Tazuna-san, I presume? Why yes. Your daughter, Tsunami, has enlisted us to protect you, she declared, smiling. We are the Arashir family, at your service. Pleased to meet you all. The Arashir family? Never heard of them, Kakashi though. However, they do seem to have huge reserves of chakra, on par with Sakura, which is disturbing. Kids of their age shouldn't have as much chakra as the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. Who are you exactly? Mercenaries, the blonde girl said. We are here to protect Tazuna-san. I'm Akane, he's Kazama Nai-chan, she said as she pointed to the teenager fighting Zabuza with her finger, and the big fox is my brother Kitsune. Forgive his attitude, he's rather excited when a battle begins. We're to help you. How can you prove it? Naruto asked. It's strange, you come at the perfect time, at the perfect place. She scowled. If you aren't happy, we can leave you to die against two dangerous missing need each as strong as your sensei. Well, it would be a shame, Kakashi said, as the introduced Kazama parried Zabuza's blade with his own. The Jounin vaguely found it familiar, but he quickly looked sideways at the lake when he sensed a huge pulse of chakra nearby. Since you seem wounded, can you take my genin away? I have the feeling Kisame hasn't loved your entry. And effectively, dozens of blue sharks of chakra emerged from the water, flying into the air, and began to fall toward the ground. Revealing his Sharingan, much to his team's surprise, Kakashi made a few hand seals, before breathing a stream of fireballs, which collided with the shark missiles. The resulting explosions illuminated the sky. I ordered you to leave, the Jounin said. I need space, and you're occupying it. He didn't have to repeat himself. Naruto nodded, and touched Tazuna's shoulder. Let's go, mister. The bridge builder nodded, before eyeing Akane. Why not run toward my house? Excellent idea, she said, as she took him through the forest nearby, the rest of Team 7 after her. Sakura briefly looked at her sensei before leaving. Good luck, sensei. Yeah, please don't die. Naruto shouted as he fled too. The man smirked. I don't intend to. Then, he locked eyes with the man-fox. Why not gang up on Kisame? Of the two, he's the strongest. Yes, the creature whispered. This battle will make us happy. Damn, he's more creepy than Guy. Kakashi thought, as the lake's water transformed into a tsunami, advancing toward them, Kisame surfing atop it. But if he's as strong as my esteemed rival, then I won't bother telling him that out loud. Kazama, the original. Kazama, acting quickly, jumped on the top of the nearest tree, avoiding the wave created by Kisame. Zabuza followed him and tried to behead him with his sword. Bowing slightly, the vessel saved his life, and then tried to ram a Rasengan into the man's chest, who backed down and landed gracefully on the lake's water, which was now covering a large part of the area. "Who the fuck are you?" the swordsman snarled as he finished a hand seal sequence. Water Dragon. A snake of liquid formed from the lake and attacked Kazama. Forming 10 clones, the teenager switched places with one of them, leaving him to be crushed while the rest attacked Zabuza hand-to-hand. The man destroyed 6 of them with a blindingly fast swing of his massive blade. However, he didn't regain his equilibrium before the survivor's feet and fists connected with his body, sending him flying backward. "Kazama Erasure," they all said. "Nice to meet you. Never heard of you." "You aren't in my bingo book," Zabuza stated, as he landed on his legs, glaring furiously at the 14s before him. "If you want to play with doubles," he muttered as he created 10 water clones. "I can play as well." "That's good," Kazama smirked as he formed 24 new Kage Bunshin, much to the swordsman's amazement. "But I'm better at this game than you." The man scowled. "We shall see," he said as he charged alongside his copies, beginning a clone battle, which soon devolved into a chaotic melee. But while the 10 Zabuza were outnumbered, their superior skill made them an even match to their enemies. And then, hidden mist technique. The water clones suddenly transformed into a thick fog, obscuring Kazama's sight. Zabuza's voice resonated in the air. "Now, let me show you the power of the silent killing art of Kagaseo." One after the other, the teenagers' clones were beheaded, and their memories rushed through Kazama's mind. Closing his eyes, taking a kunai in his right hand, the young vessel concentrated. Noticing the slight sound of rippling water behind him, he avoided Zabuza's surprise attack, and tried to stab the man, but failed. An instant later, a chuckle reached his ears. "If your superior address and survival instincts are of any indication, I assume you are the original, am I wrong? I will keep you for the end." Inwardly cursing, Kazama began to work up a plan as his last clones were murdered by the man's blade. Forming 10 new clones around him and ignoring the fatigue he felt, Kazama made them disperse. Now, everything is going as planned. When Zabuza's blade came for his neck, the vessel switched places with the nearest clone, who popped into smoke. As the memories rushed through all the clones, they received the location where he had been killed, and in which direction Zabuza was advancing. Converging toward it, the clones circled the man and attacked him with their kunai. The swordsman continued his charge, leaped back to avoid 4 stabs, and got 2 in the back. Growling, the demon of the mist swung his blade, dissipating the clones, before fleeing. Opening his eyes, Kazama followed the slight trace left by the man's dropping blood, emerging from the fog in the process. The vessel, upon noticing a fleeing Zabuza, threw a kunai at his legs, to prevent him from escaping. The water clone exploded. Recognizing the trick, Kazama moved to the side, avoiding the swordsman's water prison jutsu, much to its user's displeasure. "What the hell?" he asked. "Do you have eyes in the back of your skull?" He attacked with his sword again, but Kazama jumped, avoiding the attack, and kicked him in the face, making the swordsman lose his balance. "Maybe I do," the vessel smirked. "What have you done to me?" Zabuza asked. "I'm not as fast as normal, I feel sick and weak, and I've missed your neck too many times." "That's the blade, isn't it? You poisoned it." "Yes," the world traveler answered. "The poison on the Kusanagi was an invention of Sasori. The poison wasn't lethal, at least if the victim wasn't physically sick, but the toxin slowly paralyzed the muscles and slowed down the organs functioning, progressively weakening the opponent. The puppeteer had tried to convince Naruto to make it more potent, but he had refused. The use of his blade was too hazardous in battle for now. What if he cut himself, or a friend, accidentally? It's easier than I thought. Of course, the fact that I took him by surprise certainly helped, Kazama wondered as he continued to attack a dizzy Zabuza with kicks and punches, even if his opponent parried most of his blows. And I have recuperated from my injuries, thanks to my puppeteer self's help. And, I know all his tricks. But then... The water's level rose suddenly, and the lake swallowed Kazama and Zabuza both, like a hungry ogre. As Kazama struggled to keep his breath, his enemy disappeared within abyssal darkness. Swimming toward the surface, the vessel emerged, standing up upon the water. And saw the forest, from the sky. The lake had been transformed into a large sphere of turbulent water, of the size of a mountain. The vessel couldn't see anything within it, only a deep blackness. And two pair of hands reaching his ankles. An instant later, Kazama was pulled inside the sphere. Zabuza's uncovered face smirked at him, grinning. Kitsune, the werfox. The world was black, and Kitsune couldn't see. The swordsman had used some kind of technique to transform his surroundings into the realm of the abysses. Well, it wasn't exact. While his eyes were blind, he wasn't helpless. He could sense the chakra, movement, and the sounds coming from the swimmers. The voices were whispering to him, helping him, guiding him. The dark will always show us the way. We weren't born in the darkness. We are the darkness. A hybrid creature, looking like a fusion between a shark and a man, swam toward him at an incredible speed, its mouth opened. Reacting quickly, the werfox twisted his body, avoiding the monster's jaws. Instead, he used the opportunity to claw through its skin. Blood mixed with the water, tainting it with red. The shark-man disappeared, but his crimson trail didn't. Following it, Kitsune felt alive. His hunger had been awakened by the prospect of taking a life, of fighting for his very survival. It was his whole purpose, to hunt, or be hunted. His mind, shrouded by an insane bloodlust, noticed the creature returning, charging once again. Kitsune did the same, and collided with his opponent, ready for a brawl. The sharkman Kisame, he suddenly remembered, was stronger, and bit the demonic boy. The madness, stronger than pain, pushed him to try to eviscerate the monster. The deadly embrace lasted for a time, and then they separated, as Kisame ceased his biting in favor of a punch in the ribs, pushing the werfox deeper in the abyssal darkness. From the side, the Jounin Naruto's counterpart wanted him to spare, created a tornado inside of the water. The whirlpool captured Kisame and sent him away. The silver-haired man used another wind technique to propel himself through the liquid, reaching the werfox, grabbing him, and moved alongside him toward the surface. A dozen sharks circled them, preventing them from escaping the sphere. Kitsune wasn't bothered. He could breathe in the water, the voices assured him. However, he was slower, and Kisame was faster. As the duo began to kill the fishes with kunai and claws, the pressure suddenly increased, crushing everyone in the vicinity. As he sensed his bones cracking, the werfox tried to scream, but found that, well, he couldn't. The sharks died, and Kakashi vanished into nothing. The creature recognized him as a shadow clone. Flashes of light illuminated the darkness for a brief period, showing Kitsune a ninja creating sparks into the water, slightly burning the skin of the sharkman. The pressure returned to normal, and the werfox struggled to return to the surface. Breathing air, standing over the sphere, the werfox sensed waves of pleasure racing through his body as a red chakra came to heal his wounds, covering his body with a crimson cloak. We will not be defeated a second time. No restraints anymore. We are unstoppable. Feeling something moving under him, Kitsune began to run on the water. Projectiles of chakra erupted from it, and the werfox tried his best to avoid them. After short seconds of such a course, one took him by surprise. He didn't avoid it, because, well, it wasn't a normal projectile. It was the Jounin fighting alongside him. They were both propelled into the air, and the sharkman emerged, jumping out of the sphere, ready to devour them. Kitsune's chakra tail acted on its own and smashed him, sending him fly to the side. Hitting the water, the Sharkman regained his equilibrium and stood still, while the Warfox adopted a bestial stance and Kakashi sank, unable to grab the surface to walk on it. Roaring, Kitsune charged at his enemy at an insane speed. A second tail of chakra formed behind his back as he became faster and stronger. Grinning, the Sharkman adopted a defensive posture, ready for the attack, not even trying to avoid it. The collision's shock shook the whole sphere, making it ripple slightly. The Sharkman, however, flinched a bit, but resisted the charge, grabbing the Warfox with his arms and gripping him with an irresistible strength. Kitsune didn't know how, but Kasame's skin began to absorb the red chakra like a sponge, healing its bruises and wounds in the process. In less than a few seconds, the cloak had vanished and the Sharkman smirked, increasing his grasp on the Warfox and breaking his bones. "I can absorb chakra, little beast. You cannot defeat me," he opened his mouth. Still, it was a good fight. "Good Joe Argh." Kisame screamed, as a ball of lightning went through his lungs, barely missing Kitsune himself. Kakashi was behind the Sharkman, standing with his arm transpiercing the man's body. The monster flailed brutally, sending the Warfox and Kakashi flying away. The sphere began to twist and crumble into wild waves, as the three men fell from it. As the sphere imploded, Kitsune crashed onto a tree, and lost consciousness. Kazama. Using two Rasengan to propel himself through the water, Kazama tried desperately to distance himself from Zabuza. The Mist Nin, despite being weakened by poison, was still faster than him in the water. And he didn't know how, but he could swim with his blade in hand. Perhaps a jutsu? Escaping from the water, on some part of the sphere's surface, Kazama stood still, observing his surroundings, awaiting the inevitable attack. He jumped to the side, avoiding a blade swing meant to cut him in half. Thinking of a solution, Kazama began to run on the water, as a submerged Zabuza pursued him with his blade out of the water, like a shark's aileron. Despite the vessel's best efforts, the missing Nin was closing the distance. With the poison in his body, he most likely isn't able to change his course easily. Turning around, Kazama formed a Rasengan in his right hand. As the sword approached, the vessel avoided it by moving to its left, before ramming the ball into the sword. The resulting explosion sent it flying away, and expulsed Zabuza from the water violently. The man successfully landed on his limbs, and countered with a jutsu. Water release, shark missile. The sphere's surface transformed into many projectiles, taking the form of carnivorous fishes. They missed, however, as Kazama ran on the side, circling Zabuza and attacking on his side. The missing Nin frowned, and engaged him in a taijutsu battle. This time, however, he parried all the blows, and returned with punches and kicks of his own. Kazama cursed as he saw each of his attacks getting countered. "Not so easy anymore, no, Mr. Poison?" Zabuza chuckled as he stopped Kazama's punch, before giving him a headbutt in the face. "Now, I know your attack pattern," he declared as he punched him in the jaw. The dizzied teenager regained his equilibrium, and quickly parried Zabuza's fist. However, the man then opted for a kick to the limbs, which Kazama couldn't avoid. Falling on the water, he felt Zabuza immediately kick him again with full force. "Your style is full of flaws. You're like a toad trying to stand on his legs. It's surprising at first, but once you take the time to observe it." He grabbed Kazama, and lifted him above his head, before facing the landscape below the sphere. "You know the 8 sensible points?" he asked rhetorically. "The liver, the lungs, the spine, the clavicle vein, the jugular artery, the brain, the kidney, and the heart? Well, I think they're all going to get hit once you will crash on the earth from this hay dash." Suddenly, the sphere shifted uncontrollably. The missing Nin lost his balance, and fell, releasing his grasp on Kazama at the same time. Exploiting this unexpected turn of events, Kazama created a few shadow clones. Reaching one, he used it at a platform to propel himself towards Zabuza. After repeating the same maneuver twice, he finally reached the swordsman, formed a Rasengan and rammed it into the man's chest, who roared out of pain. The two landed on a remnant of the sphere, which was beginning to implode. In less than a second later, they were propelled toward the forest, and crashed violently onto the trees. Kakashi finished his jutsu. Fire release, the great fireball. The fire touched Kisame, burning his skin away. The monstrous Sharkman roared, before returning to his original form, Samahata in hand. So, he can fuse with his sword. Kakashi thought, as he copied the man's new water projectile with his Sharingan, before using it himself to counter the shark missiles, damaging the trees nearby. They were in the forest, now looking like a bayou, flooded by water and full of mud. Kakashi had difficulty moving quickly, but his enemy was in the same situation. That, and his wounded lungs, were crippling his abilities. Kakashi didn't know how someone could survive the Chidori, but Kisame had. His fusion with Samahata was the probable cause of this, but the damage had been done, and he was breathing heavily. The Jonin only had to continue to attack, until the missing Nin's wounds got the better of him. That was, if he could survive the monster's attacks. Suddenly, two things hit a tree nearby, pulverizing it. Kisame exploited Kakashi's surprise to try to dismember him with a swing of his sword. A quick kawarimi with a nearby branch saved his life, and allowed the man to observe the two newcomers, an unconscious Sabuza and a badly wounded Kazama. "You beat my partner?" Kisame asked. "I can't believe it." "I did," the blonde teenager said, as Kakashi helped him stand. He grits his teeth. "Then I guess I will have to go all out." He put his hands together. Water release, 1000 Char dash. A breath of flames burned Kisame's back, along with a rain of kunai and shuriken, interrupting the man's attack and making him scream. A redhead teenager he had never seen and a boy in green were standing behind the missing Nin. "Sorry for the wait, Mr. Kakashi," he said, "but the Erasure family has come to help." "It's over, Kisame," Kakashi said, as he prepared a new jutsu, rather happy to have more backup. No, it's not." The wounded man muttered, right before two needles connected with his neck. Kakashi watched the man fall, mesmerized, and two people wearing Hunter Nin masks with black kimonos appeared out of nowhere. The Samahata disappeared within the water. "Sorry to have stolen your kill," the one with white hair said. "We were tracking this one for a while." "Thanks for having weakened him and his partner," the Hunter Nin with dark hair said as he put two needles in Zabuza's neck and lifted him. "You have Kiri's gratitude." Kakashi frowned. Taking Kisame's pulse, he found it inexistent. "He's dead." The redhead scowled and imitated him, before giving the corpse to the second Hunter Nin. "Thank you for your help, Hunter-san." The man with white hair bowed politely. "Goodbye." He disappeared with his partner. Sighing, Kakashi looked at the Erasure, and fainted out of chakra depletion. Chibaku, the puppeteer. "So, what are you planning?" Chibaku asked his older counterpart and Sasori. "I don't know what you're talking about," the teenager answered. He was carrying the gray-haired Jonin on his back, and the puppeteer beside him was doing the same with Naruto's insane self. "Oh, come on!" he yelled. "You can't have been blind to that act." True Hunter Nins would have destroyed Kisame and Zabuza's bodies on the spot, instead of taking them away. "They're probably still alive." "Of course, they are," Sasori stated. "I can recognize a false death when I see one. So, you did organize this masquerade?" The blonde puppeteer shouted accusingly. His teacher had ordered him to do nothing unless he ordered to, and didn't look really surprised when Naruto had come to Tsunami's house with their hostess father, Sasuke, Sakura, and another counterpart. In fact, he seemed to expect her words about Zabuza's attack. Of course, he wasn't. His face is made of wood and he transforms people into puppets. Do you really think a surprise attack is going to faze him? Not really, his master replied. We didn't expect Kisame's presence, nor the coming of a second Hunter Nin, but I improvised. Chibaku frowned. What do we have to gain in keeping these two alive? allies, Sasori stated. We have good reasons to think that Gato is going to betray them, and we have a lot of funds. We can hire them, and they will be useful once our pursuers inevitably track us down. Chibaku thought about it. It was perhaps worth a shot. Do you really think they are a match for those three monsters? If they work with us, yes, his older self stated. And maybe we can recruit Kakashi and his team too. How? The blonde puppeteer asked. They might be different from those we had known. Heck, if Sakura really is the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki in this reality, then she certainly isn't like the one you've known. His counterpart smiled. Don't worry, I will take charge of convincing them to follow us. Even if they're only slightly like my homeworld's counterparts, then I know what to say. If not, well, maybe they will hear us out anyway. He eyed Chibaku. But as I asked Naruto, we won't reveal our true identities for a while. We are simply a clan with huge chakra reserves, and our whiskers are simply tattoos. Our Werefox Self's abilities are the result of our bloodline. And about the Rasengan and the Kage Bunshin? Or the Kusanagi? He asked. If Kakashi had seen you using them. I have a believable explanation, Sasori said. The Toad Sannin, Jiraiya, is our boss. He taught us a few tricks, and sent us here once he had learnt about Zabuza and Kisame's involvement. We stole Orochimaru's sword in a precedent mission, which convinced our commander we were fit for this mission. Well, it was a good cover-up. But for how long? And if the missing Nins aren't convinced by our propositions, and attack anyway? Sasori smirked. I have taken some precautions when I examined Kisame. Chibaku's eyes widened. He knew what the puppeteer had done. You magnificent bastard! He shouted. You've put a seal on him. Sneaky and underhanded. I like that. Yes, he confirmed. Naruto, remember this lesson, always be prepared for everything. Everything. Kazama, the traveler. Thank you for protecting my father, Tsunami said, bowing slightly. You have my eternal gratitude. Kazama smiled. It's nothing, he assured her. We were simply doing our job. Even then, you risked your life for me, Tazuna declared. Really, thank you. Kazama was slightly uncomfortable with their thanks. While he took them as a sign of a job well done, he didn't think it was so extraordinary to risk his life for others. It was simply his way of doing things. They had returned to Tsunami's household after their destructive battle with Zabuza and Kisame. They had badly damaged the landscape, and he doubted their presence would be kept a secret for long, but at least Tazuna was safe, like Kakashi. The Jounin was currently talking with his genin team inside of the house, and Kazama intended to speak with him. In private. After explaining to Naruto the plan, Kazama had, with Sasori's help, discreetly infiltrated Kakashi's bedroom. A potent genjutsu cast by the puppeteer, followed by a henge, allowed the vessel to hide in the room, taking the form of the wall. Kakashi was still in bed, his Sharingan covered, which decreased his chances of discovering Kazama. His new counterpart was wearing a green outfit, composed of a shirt and pants. He looked like a younger Yandame. Sasuke was the exact replica of the one Kazama had known, but Sakura. Her robes were orange, and she had cut her hair to medium length. She was skinny, pale, and had the creepiest smile imaginable. Kazama recognized that expression, this mask, which he had worn all his life, fake happiness. And she was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Even if the seal was keeping the bijou in check, Kazama recognized its dark power in her veins. Which was strange, since he couldn't sense it in his counterparts until they used it. Was her seal weaker? Was her body too weak to hold off the demonic chakra completely? Kazama didn't know, but he hoped Kakashi would answer his question. What do you mean, sensei? Naruto's normal self asked his teacher. You said Hunter Nins killed them? I thought so, the Jounin replied. But after a careful re-examination of Kisame's death, I find it impossible to believe. Sunbon aren't generally used for killing, and the hunter Nins should have destroyed the body on sight and kept the head, instead of transporting it elsewhere. And they didn't try to capture the Samahata, one of the most precious swords of all time. No, there's something wrong with them, and we must be careful. And who know if Gato hasn't contracted stronger killers, beside these two? The trio remains silent, frowning and scowling. Only Sakura's expression didn't change. Kazama was now sure that something was very wrong with her. Kakashi closed his eyes. I'm not in good shape, and honestly, I don't trust our helpers, so dash. The vessel's eyes flickered, as his counterpart interrupted the Jounin by asking the question Kazama wanted to pose. Why don't you trust them, sensei? They saved our lives and helped us fight the missing Nins. Yes, Sakura said, her smile breaking a bit. They're obviously our allies, why distrust them? Because, firstly, Kakashi explained, one is crazy and almost attacked us. Secondly, they are able to fight S-rank and A-rank missing Nins, while I've never heard of them. Once you reach A-rank, you are considered a big fish in the ninja world, and it's almost impossible to be an unknown, even more so within the mercenary underworld. Thirdly, no mercenary group ever helps for free. If they protect Tazuna from Gato, then it's obvious they're planning something big, and that their boss is a lot more influential than Wave's local tyrant. Such a high-class band of warriors generally work for ninja villages that don't want to have their fingerprints all over the place. And, unfortunately, I have a theory about their employer, one which isn't pleasant. Who? Naruto's counterpart asked. A powerful rogue ninja known as Orochimaru, Kakashi stated. The trio paled, and the hidden vessel inwardly cursed. He should have talked to the Jounin as soon as he had awoken from his slumber. You see, I think that the weapon this Kazama used was the Kusanagi, Orochimaru's most prized blade. Even if it's probably only a copy, that man would never give it to someone he doesn't completely trust. You must all be wary when he's nearby. The Snake Sannin always had a disturbing interest in talented youngsters. But what can we do? The Green Genin muttered. We aren't a match for them now. We'll do as if this conversation had never happened, the Jounin answered. It's merely a hypothesis. It might have been another weapon, since I only saw it briefly. However, stay on your guard. And that's not the strangest thing about them. During the battle, I noticed certain bizarre events. Like? Sakura asked. Kazama Arashur knows of techniques exclusive to the leaf. The first is an A-rank ninjutsu known as the Rasengan, and its users can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The second is the Kage Bunshin. Sakura's eyes widened at that. Yes, he can create shadow clones, and only the ninjas of Konoha know it. Which meant he obtained the secret of these techniques somehow, through spying, or by betraying the village. In all cases, he is implicated in treachery. Kazama cursed the man's analytic mind. He had forgotten the Jounin hadn't been in the ANBU for nothing. Also, Kakashi continued, their incredible chakra reserves are completely abnormal. It might be a bloodline, which I was not aware even existed. And finally, while I was preparing myself to attack Kisame, I noticed that the Fox boy was covered by a cloak of sinister, almost demonical chakra. I only saw a glimpse of it, but I'm sure that at least that one is extremely dangerous. But what can we do then? Naruto's normal self asked. They're stronger than us, and probably our only chance at fighting Gato. We train, Kakashi stated. I hope the Hokage will understand that something is wrong with this mission, once his men discover the two missing Nins we defeated along the road, but in the worst case scenario, we are alone. I intended to teach you tree walking dash. Kazama frowned at that. He had almost forgotten this passage of his life. One of the things he would have to question Kakashi about. It was completely abnormal that Team 7 didn't know this exercise after weeks of activity. Apparently, this Kakashi was as lazy as the one in his homeworld. And if the new Naruto's formal demeanor around him was of any indication, he hadn't adopted him either. But with so many powerful opponents in the field, we will ignore that exercise. You will learn a few useful techniques before Kisame and his team attack again. Being put in a near-death state is dangerous for the body, and he and his partner will need some time to recover their full strength. We've some time before us. Obvious relief and excitement spread over the genins' faces. They politely asked their teacher to rest a bit before leaving, closing the door behind them. If Sasori had done his job, and Kazama didn't doubt he had, the room was now soundproofed. Dissipating the henge, the vessel appeared beside the jounin. "Hello, Kakashi-san," he smirked, "pleased to meet you." The man's face jerked to face him, and his body tensed. Kazama knew he was ready to attack at the slightest provocation. The vessel wavered his hand in a peaceful gesture. "I'm only here to talk, not to kill you." "You have a strange way of beginning a conversation," Kakashi deadpanned, still on his guard. "You've heard our conversation, I suppose, Kazama-san." Ignoring the blatant sarcasm in the man's tone, Kazama simply smiled and sat on the floor. This conversation would take some time, but he hoped to get important answers out of it. "Yes. I must say that it's hurt me to hear you think we're working for Orochimaru, or that we're traitors. We are Konoha's most loyal servants, as Jiraiya-sama knows." Kakashi's eyes widened. "You work for him?" "We all do," he lied shamelessly. "The boss ordered us to help your team, after he had learnt of Gato's involvement." "How do you think I learned the Rasengan and the Kage Bunshin, except from him?" "And your sword?" the jounin asked, narrowing his eyes. Kazama smiled, showing it to the man. "It's the real one. We stole it from the snake." "You stole Orochimaru's sword?" "Yes," he confirmed, even if he hadn't stolen it, but earned. "That's what convinced Jiraiya to send us for this mission." The vessel decided to deviate the conversation on the truly important matters. He didn't want his godson to be in danger. Hook, line, and sinker. And it worked. Kakashi glared. "How do you know that? Is it really important to know that this Naruto Uzumaki is in reality Naruto Namake's, son of the Yoname Hokage and of Kushina Uzumaki?" he asked rhetorically. "It's an S-rank secret," he declared. "You can't talk about that casually. Your civilians talk casually about the Kyuubi being contained within your female student," the vessel pointed out. "Your secrets aren't the safest of the ninja world." "Perhaps," the man agreed. "It's a situation I'm uncomfortable with. If anybody knows about our Jinchuriki, and about my sensei's son." "Not everybody is aware of his parentage," Kazama stated, "but I must admit I'm interested on who adopted him." "Nobody did," Kakashi replied. "You already know Jiraiya didn't, so he stayed an orphan." "The son of our village's greatest hero, an orphan?" He narrowed his eyes. "Except Jiraiya, you were the most fit to adopt him. Why didn't you?" Kakashi chuckled sadly. "I was a dysfunctional adolescent that killed people all the time for the village, and that collected porn during his spare time. You really think I would have been a good role model?" "It would have been better to have a bad role model than none at all." Kazama yelled inwardly. The rage accumulated over a lifetime of loneliness filled his mind, but he managed to hide it. It would have been better than facing the ordeals of being an orphan alone. Kakashi closed his only eye. "Yes," he admitted. "I couldn't support the idea to adopt a carbon copy of my dear sensei, not when his disappearance had left a huge hole in my heart." Kazama's face twisted into a terrifying display of anger and hatred. "That's your excuse? You left him to suffer all his childhood because he looked like the Yondaime?" he yelled. Fortunately, the soundproof jutsu prevented anyone from hearing him shout. "That's the reason I suffered all my life? Because you couldn't stop thinking about my father?" he narrowed his eyes. "You disgust me," he said. "You sicken me. You shouldn't be their teacher." The man didn't react. "You're right," he agreed, with an emotionless voice. Kazama was completely taken aback by this statement. He had expected him to deny that, or to find an excuse, but each time I see him, I beat myself over this situation. Now, when I see him, I realize that I have failed Minato, and ignored my duty. I'm fully aware I don't deserve to even teach him, and it's agonizing. Kazama eyed him, the rage vanishing. Well, not totally. Yes, he was still angry at him, but he didn't know how to react at that display of regret. I've made mistakes all my life, and I know I will have to pay for them one day, in this world or the next, he stated. I know I'm beyond forgiveness, and seriously, I don't know how to atone for my failures. The rage returned. Then begin by teaching them correctly. He snarled. They don't even know tree walking after weeks. They're a bunch of untrained rookies. With their potential, they could reach true greatness if you had taken the time to dash. Insane amount of killing intent interrupted his rant. Kakashi glared at Kazama. You think it's my choice? He replied with a harsh tone. You really think I want them to be so outmatched? To be killed by a monster like Kisame? Kazama faced the glare, even if he flinched slightly. Then who is responsible? Konoha's high command, he answered. You really think my superiors want the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki to be strong on her own? The sentence silenced Kazama, who widened his eyes. The conspiracy, again? Sakura perhaps, but why not the two others? Kakashi frowned. Because Team 7 won't exist beyond the Chunin exams. It isn't meant to. Kazama frowned. What was he talking about? Explain. Team 7 mustn't pass the new Chunin exams, he declared. They must fail. That's why I'm not authorized to teach them anything beyond the basics. Kazama's jaw dropped. But that doesn't have any advantage. I'm afraid, but there is a few. The next exam will be within Konoha, where Team 7 will be completely protected and out of danger. If they fail during the parts that aren't shown to the public, Konoha's high command will use that as an excuse to remove Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura from the normal shinobi program. You know what happened to Sasuke's family? Kazama nodded. He's obsessed after killing Itachi, which is a lost cause for the higher-ups. Sasuke possesses the last Sharingan, and is the last hope the village has to resurrect the Uchiha clan. They won't risk him for the sake of his revenge, especially since Sasuke doesn't hold a candle to Itachi, who was an ANBU captain at the same age. After his defeat, Konoha will convince him, I don't want to know how, to stay in the village, where he would be used to breed a new generation of Uchiha. He would never let his revenge go, Kazama pointed out. No words will ever convince him to let Itachi escape his grasp. You think he will have a choice? Kakashi asked. And I doubt our leaders are above brainwashing people. We have already seen that with Root. The mere idea of seeing Sasuke acting like Sai was sickening. He was a human, not an emotionless machine, who could never disobey. That's insane. I know, but I can't do a damn thing about it, the Jamin said. I have briefly thought about deserting, but Konoha would never leave us alone. And the other villages would probably be even more ruthless in dealing with us. And if, by some miracle, he succeeded in participating in the public ordeals? Kazama asked, remembering the exams of his homeworld. Then I will probably be ordered to train him, Kakashi declared. The Sharingan can allow anyone to make huge progresses in a very short amount of time. In this case, Sasuke will probably become a Chunin, and the only missions he will receive will be in Konoha itself. I think that Konoha will have Itachi killed, even if I seriously doubt it's possible, and announce it to him. Without his revenge, he will have no other goal but to restore his clan. It's a win-win situation, unless he were to die, but the proctors will probably protect him from anything. Except Orochimaru, he wanted to add. The snake had been the wrench in Konoha's plan, the only variable they hadn't thought of, with disastrous results. And about Sakura? He asked. I don't know, Kakashi said. If the team doesn't pass, then either she'll be removed from the shinobi program, if the Hokage has his way, or else she will be trained as Konoha's weapon. If she overcomes the public ordeals, then I will probably be forbidden from teaching her. She will either lose handily, or pass with the Kyuubi's help. My superiors want to witness the power of the bijou in its full glory. That explained many things, Kazama realized. Why I haven't been trained very much, among other things. And if she does become a Chunin? It's the best scenario, Kakashi said. She will continue her career, unless the most extremists of Konoha's rulers convince the Hokage to make her a weapon, which I doubt they will. Once a ninja becomes a Chunin, only the Hokage can decide their fate, and he always had a soft spot for her. In all cases, Naruto will leave Team 7 for an apprenticeship, either as a genin or a Chunin, probably under me or another person. He sighed. That is, if we survive our next battle with Kisame's team. Your help will be critical. Kazama thought about the whole situation. While he now knew that Orochimaru was telling the truth, a fact he hated to the very bone, he was presented with the possibility of preventing future tragedies. He could reveal the truth to Kakashi, and offer Team 7 the opportunity of leaving this world for another, thus saving their existence. But then Sasuke wouldn't be able to kill Itachi, but if he was innocent, like in Kazama's homeworld, then it was for the best. It would also protect Konoha from Akatsuki. They were after the bijou, and with the Kyuubi missing, whatever plan they had would crumble. Kakashi-san, he said, after reaching a decision. I have something to confess. What? The man asked, eyeing the teenager, who smiled. You see, I have lied about my identity. In reality, I'm... Shock spread across Kakashi's face. Do you really need to use your Sanbon that way? Zabuza growled to his two disciples, as he was lying on a bed. Kisame was in the same position next to him, and the two fake hunter nins were standing in front of them. I had to, Zabuza-sama, Haku said as she caressed a sleepy Samahata, who barked happily. We were outmatched and outnumbered. I had no choice but to fake your death, just in case. It was the only thing to do, Kimimaro declared. The bridge builder had escaped and Kakashi's reinforcements had arrived. Fighting them would have been hazardous, while staying low for a while will give us the time to regain our strength and attack again. And this time we'll fight at your side, Zabuza-sama. The swordsman frowned, but stayed silent. He could see the wisdom in his apprentice's words, as always. Kimimaro had been the voice of reason of the group, ever since Zabuza had adopted him after his clan's destruction. He and Haku were the children he had never given birth to. They were his greatest achievements, his most loyal followers. They were strong enough to kill the Konohanins and their helpers. Speaking of them, does anybody know anything about our surprise opponents? He asked. No, Kimimaro said. And it bothers me. I have searched in the data we've collected, but this Erasure family is totally unknown, which shouldn't be the case since they're powerful and organized enough to attack you and Kisame-senpai. The swordsman squinted. Ambu? Perhaps, Kisame muttered. He was still weak and suffering from his lungs injuries. It might explain something about that fox creature. What do you mean, Kisame-sama? Haku questioned him. During our battle, the creature had been briefly covered with a cloak of chakra, an inhuman chakra, like Yagura's. He might be a Jinchuriki. Zabuza's face twisted into a stupor. You're implying the others were his handlers? Yes, the missing nin confirmed. He's crazy, so they must be with him to keep him on a leash. Kimimaro frowned. Then a ninja village is probably implicated. Since Kakashi didn't expect their arrival, they mustn't be working for Konoha. But which hidden village would have an interest in protecting the bridge builder? Haku wondered. I mean, to the point of sending a Jinchuriki, a weapon of mass destruction, to accomplish this task? Zabuza frowned. I don't know. Maybe they were aware of our involvement. Kisame is on the level of a bijou, so they must have sent this beast to kill him. Perhaps, Kisame conceded. But it doesn't change the fact we'll have to fight them again, if we want to kill the bridge builder. I don't know if fighting a Jinchuriki is worth what Gato is currently paying us. But if we break the contract, it'll be hard to find another job, Kimimaro stated. However, we can sell this Jinchuriki to another village. That's a good idea, boy, Kisame smirked. Right after Zabuza and I have recuperated, we will attack them. And this time, we'll crush them all. The normal. Okay, Naruto began. Who wants to play ninja poker? Everyone looked at him, and he smiled. He was sitting near a table, with cards in his hand. He stared at the kids present. You know, I'm pretty bored right now, and Kakashi-sensei won't teach us anything for a while. Why not amuse ourselves? They stayed silent, before the boy in green, Chibaku, sat too. You've got a player. He locked eyes with the girl, Akane. Want to play? Of course. She said, as she imitated him. The duo looked at their brother, Kitsune, who sighed. Why not? It might be amusing. Naruto looked at Sakura and Sasuke. And you? Sure. The girl shouted. The Uchiha only shrugged. I've no time for games. Ninja poker is a special game, Chibaku said. It's also an exercise to gather information. The prodigy raised his eyebrows, and Naruto sighed. The rules are simple, it's like normal poker, except that cheating is allowed and encouraged. The goal is to know what the others have in their hands, and protect what you have, Chibaku explained. Everything short of outright violence or physical extortion is allowed, even theft. It increases your awareness and your ability to notice traps. Sasuke was many things, but an idiot he wasn't. He could recognize the value in such a game, and a thoughtful look formed on his face. Why not? He decided, as he sat. Naruto smirked, and he began to distribute the cards, and noticed Chibaku replacing his own with those he had hidden within his sleeves. So, there is at least one professional amongst my enemies. But so am I, Naruto thought, as did the same trick. I've the feeling this stay is going to be fun. Somewhere in the ocean, air twisted. A tempest formed from nowhere, amongst flashes of lights. 3 men were standing on the water. We are coming for you, world wanderers, Madara thought. Just wait for us. Chapter 8, Bonds. Royal Flush. Naruto shouted, much to the horror of the other players, especially Sasuke, whose jaw dropped when his all-in failed, busting him out of the game. He was following Sakura and Kitsune, leaving only 3 players around the table, all expert players. Well, not really. While Chibaku was an experienced cheater, having learned all the tricks from Sasori, and his newest counterpart was apparently good at the game too, if the slight alteration of his cards was of any indication, Naruto was simply lucky. Insanely lucky. I fold, he said. I fold too, his other self imitated him. What? Again? Naruto questioned. That's the 3rd consecutive time. And that's the 3rd time you can do a royal flush. Well, I don't have a good hand, Chibaku lied through his teeth. In reality, he had 4 of a kind. I only have 2 pairs, the normal Naruto smiled. And I have the feeling you are on a lucky streak. No, it's not merely luck, the blonde puppeteer thought. 3 royal flushes, 2 4 of a kind, 1 straight flush, that's beyond chance. Either she's a better cheater than the 2 of us, which I doubt, or fate has decided to screw with me today. Somehow, I have the feeling it is the second possibility, the Kyuubi whispered. It is so hard to resist making you cry. After receiving a new hand, Chibaku immediately knew he would have to back down. I fold. Again? Naruto yelled. What's the problem? Are you a coward? I'm a survivalist, he replied. It's not cowardice, it's strategy. She snorted. Yeah, I believe you. All in. Chibaku, and the more cunning members of the audience, stared at the boy in green, as if he had lost his mind, which he probably had. Are you suicidal? The genin smiled at the young puppeteer. What can I say, I'm a gambler. Ah, now there is someone courageous among us. Naruto smirked. Chibaku facepalmed, and closed his eyes. I don't want to see that. But it's going to be funny. He's going to be humiliated, like the Uchiha. Don't be an idiot. Sorry, but since it's me who will lose after him, it will be like watching at a picture of my future. That's the point, moron. I will not see your face, but I want to see his. Commanded by a demonic will, Chibaku opened his eyelids, just in time for the showdown. His other self had a straight flush. Naruto had a royal flush, again. Chibaku had to admit that the face of the blonde genin was indeed priceless, but then the puppeteer noticed the flat lady's evil smirk, as she locked eyes with him. Now, it's between you and me. It's going to suck. Hard, the Kyuubi confirmed, laughing. The traveler, Kazama. Let me get this straight, Kakashi demanded. You're all alternate versions of Naruto and of a powerful missing nin, who jumped through different realities where history changed. Yes. Somehow, 3 alternate versions of Madara Uchiha followed you and beat the crap out of you before you successfully teleported away. So, you're hiding on this island, training and preparing for them to attack you again? Yes. And you want to recruit Team 7 and Kisame's group to face them? Yes. And you seriously expect them and my group to accept? Yes. There was a long silence. I cannot believe it, Kakashi finally declared. It can't be possible. Kazama smiled. And yet, you do know I'm telling you the truth. Yes, the Jounin confirmed, massaging his temples. It explains all the strange crap about your group, and especially the demonic chakra I noticed during our fight against Kisame. He sighed. This is crazy. I know. I scarcely believe it myself, he admitted. But things happened so fast I didn't have much time to think about it. Kakashi stared at him with a strange expression. It was a mix of astonishment, compassion and sadness. You have my congratulations. I would have gone mad if I had been in your place. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, Kazama said reflexively, which made the man flinch. The world wanderer inwardly cursed himself. I really have to keep my mouth shut. Was I a good teacher? He asked, with a pained look. The vessel hesitated to reveal the truth, but then Kakashi closed his eyes. Your silence tells everything, he stated. How bad was I? As incompetent as you are now, the teenager said bluntly, which made the man's facial expression worsen. But since Kisame wasn't working with Zabuza in my homeworld, you only taught us tree climbing. Or at least you only taught me this, since you personally trained Sasuke. The Jounin looked as if he was facing death. I never wanted this. Kazama inwardly cringed. He had the feeling one more bad word would send the man into depression. It was time to cheer him up a bit. I know, and you're not fully responsible for what happened. The people who forced you to act like that were and still are. But if I had been more courageous, or more inventive. He trailed off. We would have been removed from your care, and things might have been even worse, the vessel countered. As much as I loathe to admit it, events couldn't have happened otherwise. The Jounin chuckled. Perhaps in another universe, then. Maybe, the vessel agreed. Why not witness it together? Kakashi didn't answer the question immediately, and stayed immobile, probably considering the proposition. Then, he seemed to reach a decision. After we put an end to Gato's tyranny, I will explain the situation to my team. Team 7 will come to an agreement as a group. If we accept, we will solve some of the still existing problems, like Itachi. About it, Kazama said, I would want you to give me some precise facts. I don't know anything beyond the fact that he butchered his clan. If it is what you desire to know, the Jounin cut in. If you want explanations, you will have to meet the Sandaime. The vessel nodded. Perhaps we will. He locked eyes with Kakashi. Now, a more pressing subject. How did Sakura end up with the Kyuubi? Kakashi raised an eyebrow at him. I have no idea about what to say. The Kyuubi attacked our Konoha, like in your world. Why the Yondaime sealed it within Sakura, and not inside your belly? Many answers are possible to this question. Perhaps she was the closest child, perhaps the beast fought differently. I can't answer your interrogations. Kazama sighed. The man wasn't very helpful, for now, at least. Is my counterpart aware of his origins? He hasn't learned about the Yondaime yet, but he does know he is related to the Uzumaki clan. Kakashi chuckled. It was hard to hide it, once his special chakra began to manifest itself. This caught the demon container's full attention. He has the special chakra? It's in its early stages of development, but yeah, he has it. It was to be expected, Kazama thought. Without a demon sealed within his belly, screwing around with his chakra, his gift must have formed naturally. I'm happy for him, the teenager declared. Can he learn ninjutsu quickly? Yes, Kakashi nodded. Intensive training should awaken Sasuke's Sharingan, and Sakura's shadow clones are an incredible learning tool. With a few team sessions, the trio should be of low Chunin level within the next 3 days. Not enough to fight neither Zabuza nor Kisame, but my students should be able to defend themselves against their apprentices. If everything goes along with our plan, then there won't be a fight at all, in the best case, the vessel said reassuringly. But better to be prepared than to be killed. The negotiations might end badly. You have no idea of how many times I've seen an advantageous situation going straight to hell, the Jounin stated. No plan survives its contact with the enemy. Kazama nodded in agreement, before locking eyes with the man. I have one last question. Please, tell it. How are my parents? Silence installed itself within the room, and Kakashi did not move for a moment. They were the greatest people I have ever known, the man declared. Your mother, Kushina, was very beautiful. She had long red hair and purple eyes. She was very kind, if a bit hyperactive. Loyal to her friends, and ready to sacrifice her life for her loved ones. She was one of the strongest kunoichi I have ever seen, and probably the greatest seal master of all times. She was feared as the Red Menace of Konoha. He smiled. Your father, Minato, was my teacher. He was a charismatic and level-headed leader, and a good man. He was feared at the Yellow Flash of Konoha, and the strongest ninja to have ever lived. You look a lot like him, but you have your mother's face. He was handsome, with a lot of fangirls. Dozens of women cried when he began to date Kushina. His expression was nostalgic. They were heroes, in all the senses of the term. I can tell you 1,000 stories about them, but none is as glorious as they were. You can be proud of your parentage. The demon vessel closed his eyes, imagining himself in their arms. Thank for your answers, Kazama said, before rising up. Our teammates are probably wondering what the hell we're doing. He gave his old teacher a hand. Want to come? With joy, the man replied as he shook hand with the vessel, like two accomplices formalizing their alliance. Once the duo reached the salon, they found a very strange scene. 5 children were pale, and looking at 5 cards on a table. Naruto was grinning widely, and maliciously touching a large sum of money, much to the despair of the others. Chibaku especially looked downright depressed. Okay, Kakashi muttered. What happened? Nothing, 5 of them answered, while Naruto's smile only widened. Nothing at all. The Ice Princess, Haku. What do you mean, your masters aren't ready to receive me? Gato snarled. I am your boss. Zabuza-sama's orders are clear, Haku said to the little businessman and his bodyguards. He is occupied, and Kisame-sama too. They were resting behind the door, and did not want to be disturbed. Especially by an arrogant dwarf and his cronies. The man frowned. I don't give a damn about their wishes. I'm their boss. Kimimaro shook his head. You are our employer, nothing more. We will accomplish the task you paid us for, but that is all. Gato glared at them. You didn't. The bridge builder is still alive, and the trashes you call masters have fled with their tail bet dash. A strong hand interrupted the midget's rant, by grabbing his throat. Kimimaro effortlessly lifted him in the air, with an emotionless look on his face. It had happened so fast that the 2 thugs behind the businessman were still under the effect of surprise. I won't let inferior vermin like you insult our teachers, the Kaguya declared. Have I made myself clear? Wave's tyrant was pissing himself. Kill th dash. A second later, his bodyguards were transformed into 2 statues of ice by a quick jutsu from Haku. Gato paled even more. If you do not want to be transformed into a snowman, she declared with a cold tone, you will have to apologize. The dwarf locked eyes with her, his rage overwhelming his fear. My men will inform Kiri of your location if I'm not back to my base within the hour. And? Haku asked, completely unfazed. The village is in the middle of a civil war, right now. Our presence here is the last thing they care about. You will have to find a better threat. Kimimaro smirked. You know, an hour is enough to make you lose a few limbs. A minute will suffice, in fact. 4 horns of bones formed on his head, giving him a demonic look. So, apologize. I'm sorry. The coward shouted. I'm truly sorry. The Kaguya dropped him on the floor. Much better. The businessman got up and escaped at full speed. He runs rather fast for his height, Haku noticed. Kimimaro chuckled. If he tries to menace us again, his speed won't matter at all. The traveler, Kazama. In the forest near Tsunami's home, Kazama eyed his gathered counterparts, minus Kakashi's student, who had left to train with his teacher, much to the teenager's pleasure. Sasori was with them, standing under a tree, and his werefox self had new, clean clothes, offered by Tazuna. It was only a white shirt and black boxers, but the boy had been happy to receive a gift. Before we begin this lesson, the oldest Naruto announced, I want to know what you know about your family. The crowd did not respond immediately. The teenager sighed. Just as I expected, they are still in the dark. My parents were 2 ninjas whom I do not know anything about, beyond that they sacrificed themselves during the Kyuubi's attack, Naruto answered, breaking the awkward silence. At least, that's what Sandame Gigi told me when I tried to learn who they were. My parents were a beggar and a whore, who got rid of me at the first chance they had, Kitsune said, scowling. That's the response I have always got when I asked the question. Kazama eyed him with seriousness. What kind of sick people had been vicious enough to tell that to a child? It's completely wrong. Yeah. Naruto cheered him up. Don't believe these lies. I'm sure they loved you, but died during the Kyuubi's attack, like mine. The boy seemed relieved, as if he had been freed of chains he had thought unbreakable. Thanks. Don't. She shouted. After all the horrors you suffered in your life, you deserve to feel happy. He reddened a bit. Well, let me thank you anyway. Anyway, Chibaku cut in. My parents, too, were ninjas who died during the Kyuubi's attack, so it might be a universal fact. I don't know about my dad, but mom's name was Kushina Uzumaki, and she was related to the famous Uzumaki clan. Kazama nodded. Kushina Uzumaki was our mother, to us all. She was effectively a member of the Uzumaki clan, the rulers of the land of Whirlpool. Unfortunately, another nation destroyed them, and most of their knowledge. During my travels, Sasori continued the explanation, I recuperated some of the last scrolls created by this clan, containing information on their techniques. I intended to keep them for later, but... The Uchiha trio came, his apprentice guessed. Yes, Kazama nodded. They're far too strong for us as we are now. They underestimated us last time, they allowed their pride to take over their reason, but I doubt they will make the same mistake next time. He showed them the scrolls, and put them on the ground. The group gathered around them to observe these artifacts more closely. So, we're going to train. Intensively. How can we surpass 3 Kage-level ninjas within a few days? His puppeteer counterpart asked. Not to sound pessimistic, but we have a lot to learn in a very short time. You're right, the teenager conceded. But we have the Kage Bunshin to correct that. Naruto and your other counterpart already know it, and I have explained the technique to Sasori a short while ago. He will teach it to you, my puppeteer me. But why will it help us? Naruto asked. Solid clones are helpful, and they make good adversaries for spars, but beyond that. Kazama smiled. The Kage Bunshin was originally a spying tool, because of one of its main features. Each time a shadow clone is dissipated, its memories return to the original. If 1,000 clones practice 100 jutsu during a whole week, you will absorb all their knowledge and experience. This is fantastic. His female self jumped on place. With our chakra reserves, just imagine how many clones we can make. Chibaku nodded in understanding. It will be an amazing shortcut. The teenager nodded, before locking eyes with Kitsune. Since you have some difficulties with the technique, I will teach you first some exercises to increase your chakra control. The boy nodded silently. And now, let's open the scrolls, Kazama declared. I only read a small part of the White Tiger, and only about some wind techniques. They all focused on the paper, once the vessel's chakra revealed the words on the paper. Kazama began to read out loud the beginning of the blue one. The azure dragon is the bringer of the spring, that ends the winter to give life to the flowers. It is the one that protects the east, the keeper of the forests. To follow the azure dragon, is to follow the path of precision. He who commands the lightning must be fast and deadly, and strike to kill. The thunder doesn't announce where it will attack, but its judgment is absolute, and death always the punishment of he who defies the storm. The azure dragon is the master of energy. The azure dragon is powerful, but its judgment extreme. It kills, but does not spare. The azure dragon mustn't use its power until its opponent is beyond salvation. If it wants to let its enemy live for another day, the azure dragon redirects the energy of the adversary against him, preserving its own forces for the killing blow. The azure dragon believes in power above all else. It is the king of all kings, the one that no one should defy without being prepared to pay the ultimate price. Only those who are ready to be killed should have the right to take a life. Power is the essence of lightning, the sword of heaven. The azure dragon knows power is ephemeral and respects those who want to use it to achieve their vision, but loathes those who seek it for its own sake. He who follows the azure dragon seeks to live through fear of its power and its judgment. He who follows the azure dragon knows the terror of the people is what keep their greed in check, and they act only when their pride overrules their prudence. He whose rages are rare but deadly will prevent 1,000 battles, because his enemies will not attack him, and leave him in peace. What is this gibberish? Naruto asked. I don't understand how this crap is supposed to help us train. On the contrary, I think it is important to listen, the blonde puppeteer said. This prologue gives us a philosophy and wisdom. Exactly, Sasori stated. The Uzumaki had 5 different schools of warriors, 5 branches, that each followed a particular way of life. They conceived things like war, peace, and power differently. Also, I noticed the premises of a fighting style within this text. A style that redirects the opponent's energy against him, and that is focused on precise, deadly blows? Kitsune asked. Yes, he confirmed, before facing the teenager. Please, continue to read, Kazama-san. He obeyed, and took the red scroll. The Vermilion Bird is the bringer of the summer, that ends the spring to make the flowers grow beyond birth. It is the one that protects the south, the keeper of the skies. To follow the Vermilion Bird is to follow the path of destruction. He who commands the fire must be powerful and remorseless, and hit to wound. The blaze doesn't fight, it consumes everything on its path, and its hunger is only satisfied once the whole world is devoured. The Vermilion Bird is the master of strength. The Vermilion Bird strikes to harm, and its advance cannot be stopped. The Vermilion Bird must break its opponent with strong and vicious blows. If it wants to protect itself, the Vermilion Bird counters strength with strength, and transforms the offense into defense, making attack the best of all shields. The Vermilion Bird believes in will above all else. It is the determined ruler, the one that no one should try to stop. Only those who are ready to fail in their goal should have the right to hinder the dreams of others. Will is the essence of fire, the drive of the inferno. The Vermilion Bird knows will is precious and respects those who struggle to achieve their goal, but loathes those who back down before the unknown and cower in fear of the obstacles. He who follows the Vermilion Bird seeks to live through war, a war that will allow him to gain the resources he needs. He who follows the Vermilion Bird knows that peace weakens the warriors, and that only his strength keeps his opponents from increasing their own. He who fights 100 battles will win 1,000 wars, because he will learn from his mistakes and keep his edge. He posed the scroll on the ground and took the white one. The white tiger is the bringer of the autumn, that ends the summer to leave life the time to prepare for colder days. It is the one that protects the west, the keeper of the plains. To follow the white tiger is to follow the path of speed. He who commands the wind must be evasive and unrelenting, and attack all the time. The gust is always blowing, and its constant assault can make even the greatest mountain bow before the skies. The white tiger is the master of breath. The white tiger always surprise, and its blows are numerous. The white tiger must use its power to continue to strike, until its enemy falls. If it wants to protect himself, the white tiger avoids and evades, staying untouchable but never backing down, even before stronger than itself. The white tiger believes in freedom above all else. It is the lone beast, the one that no one should try to restrain. Only those who are ready to be stripped of their free will should have the right to enslave others. Freedom is the essence of the wind, the state of the skies. The white tiger knows freedom is a constant fight and respects those who try to preserve their own, but loathes those who let their captors rule with impunity. He who follows the white tiger seeks to live through trickery, a trickery that will allow him to redirect his enemy's efforts toward another menace. He who follows the white tiger knows that peace never lasts, and that cunning is what protects him from destruction. He who manipulates his adversaries into infighting will be left alone forever, as ruinous wars will happen between others. Then, it was the turn of the black scroll. The black tortoise is the bringer of the winter, that ends the autumn to make all creatures rest before the awakening. It is the one that protects the north, the keeper of the seas. To follow the black tortoise is to follow the path of resistance. He who commands the water must be swift and enduring, and counter all strikes. The waves face all obstacles and survive to all attacks, changing form to continue advancing. The black tortoise is the master of adaptation. The black tortoise waits for the opponent to come, to better counter his blows. The black tortoise must always pair, to better outlast. If it wants to attack, the black tortoise prepares and traps, being as patient as a calm river and as treacherous as a tempest, to exploit all weaknesses. The black tortoise believes in change above all else. It is the moving animal, the one that no one should try to immobilize. Only those who have achieved perfection should have the right to halt evolution. Change is the essence of the water, the drive of the sea. The black tortoise knows change is important and respects those who try to reshape the world, but loathes those who hinder transformations out of fear of what they do not control. He who follows the black tortoise seeks to rule through preparation, as preparations will make him foresee and prevent all problems. He who follows the black tortoise knows that dangers are always present, and that anticipation will preserve him from everything. He who is always on the defensive will survive until the twilight of the world, as his shield refines itself as time will pass. Finally, he read the prologue of the Golden Scroll. The Golden Unicorn is the foundation of all seasons, that maintains the universal order by existing and nurturing life. It is the one that protects the center, the keeper of the mountains. To follow the Golden Unicorn is to follow the path of survival. He who commands the earth must be determined and stubborn, and endure all blows. The land resists all assaults and stays still, healing from its wounds over the years. The Golden Unicorn is the master of stance. The Golden Unicorn is slow, taking its time to inflict crushing damages upon he who defies the rock. The Golden Unicorn must not avoid and must not flinch, to better prepare. If it wants to attack, the Golden Unicorn waits before striking, like a landslide tearing down everything in its path. The Golden Unicorn believes in stability above all else. It is the eternal pillar, the one that no one should try to break. Only those who do not want to rule should have the right to take down the natural order. Stability is the essence of Earth, the foundation of the world. The Golden Unicorn knows stability is fragile, and respects those who strive to create a better law, but loathes those who do not try to fight crime out of indifference. He who follows the Golden Unicorn seeks to live through harmony, a harmony that will keep him and his allies united against a common foe. He who follows the Golden Unicorn knows that being divided makes another's conquest easier, while solidarity enforces an everlasting peace. He who forms bonds with others will preserve his own existence, as he will support and be supported. Kazama posed it. The rest of the scrolls is organized the same way: a taijutsu section, a ninjutsu section, a genjutsu section, a fuinjutsu section, a specialized section, unique to each scroll, and a coded version which I haven't been able to decipher. Yet, he added inwardly. The language was simply incomprehensible, but the vessel was determined to crack the coding one day. As you have understood, they are all linked to a single affinity. Affinity? Naruto raised an eyebrow. One's chakra is familiar with one element, Sasori explained. Fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning. If you have an affinity for wind, you will master aerial techniques faster and use them more easily. He took one piece of paper from his sleeves and gave it to the werefox Naruto. Blood tests have showed me the affinity of most of you, but since you're the latest derived, channel chakra in your fingers. The boy obeyed, and the paper was cut in half. You're wind-natured, the puppeteer stated. Like everyone except Naruto. Hey, what am I? The girl asked. For some reason, you are oriented toward water, Sasori stated. You probably inherited that from your mother Kushina. So I will be able to create tsunamis? Naruto squealed. Awesome. Not yet, Kazama said, before smiling. But in time, why not? Yeah, she stood up. Everyone, cower in fear of the almighty ruler of the sea, Naruto Tsunami Uzumaki. The reactions to her outburst were mixed, going from cheers, to laughs, to sighs. Anyway, Sasori declared, all of us will create as many clones as possible and train in specific techniques, chosen by I and Kazama-san. I will take you, he eyed his apprentice, a bit away, so we can create stronger puppets in peace. I have a few ideas to counter the Madara trio's intangibility. It promises to be great, the boy whispered. I, Kazama gazed at Naruto and Kitsune, will be your tutor. We will go near the river, to train discreetly. The two smiled. Okay, Naruto-sensei, Naruto smirked cheerfully. I want to train until I can't stand on my legs. He nodded, but then noticed Sasori looking at him. Can I do something for you? Yes, the puppeteer said. Can we talk in private, for a short while? The youngster frowned. Why not? They walked away, reaching in nearly river. What do you want? Your narration of your last battle with Sabuza ticked me off, he declared. I want to test something. Do you have the time for a taijutsu spar? Of course, he took a defensive stance. It is about my fighting style, isn't it? Kazama guessed. Yes. Yes, the missing nin confirmed, before attacking. The fight went badly for the teenager. He parried most of the man's attacks at the beginning, and almost hit him once or twice, but then he got defeated. In a fast gesture, Sasori kicked the blonde's legs before punching him in the face with impressive strength, making Kazama fall on the ground. The redhead frowned, before helping the vessel rising up. I'm sure of it, now, he muttered. Who taught you this style? Aro Senin. I mean, Jiraiya, Kazama corrected himself. After refusing to adopt him, his godfather didn't even deserve a nickname anymore. Sasori locked eyes with the teenager. I have a truth to tell you, one that you won't appreciate. Kazama scowled. I suck at taijutsu, isn't it? Worse, the man said. I think your training has been sabotaged. The teenager's eyes widened. Your style is full of flaws, Sasori explained bluntly. It is effective, but an adversary experienced in taijutsu can notice glaring openings if he takes the time to observe it. There is a distinct pattern of attack, your legs are easy targets, you do not fully protect your head, you cannot defend yourself against a speed demon, you can face chunin in most jounin, but you're a joke against someone that knows the basics of this style, or is sufficiently experienced to understand it mid-battle. He sighed. Honestly, it's a miracle you're still alive. Kazama stayed silent. How can I be so weak? Jiraiya spends 3 years teaching me he paled, as a terrifying possibility came to his mind. Sasori, are you implying that Jiraiya taught me a flawed style on purpose? Yes. The teenager didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't think. A few stray memories rushed through his mind, of his time with the Toad Sannin, of 3 long-wasted years. And then, a Rasengan shattered the ground. And another. And another, for 5 minutes. He continued to destroy the clearing, until his tiredness overcame his rage. The vessel was standing in the middle of a crater, Sasori gazing at him without showing any emotion. The puppeteer had stayed silent during the whole tantrum. Having calmed himself, the teenager remembered the words within the blue scroll. He who commands the lightning must be fast and deadly, and strike to kill, he muttered. Sasori. Yes? As soon as we can, we will find Jiraiya. The teenager's eyes were filled with hatred. I will talk to him. And he will need a good excuse. Sakura. Sasuke's Sharingan activated, allowing him to avoid all of Naruto's kunai. The Uchiha's counterattack was a lot more violent. Fire release, dragon's breath. The boy unleashed a cone of fire from his mouth. His adversary put his hands together. Wind release, aerial wall. A strong draft circled him, deflecting the fire on his sides and shielding him from the heat. Very good, their teacher praised them, while Sakura and her clones clapped their hands. It was the 5th match today, and the constant threat of injury had finally awakened Sasuke's bloodline, much to his pleasure. In fact, he had never seemed as happy as he was today. Now, the next match, Sakura and Naruto, ninjutsu only. Sasuke retired beside Kakashi, and the girl took his place. Her clones exploded in a puff of smoke, and their memories were immediately assimilated by the original. They had practiced the techniques Kakashi-sensei had taught her the entire day. They were only two, but were versatile and hard to perform for a debutante. The SCAM, aka Shadow Clone Advanced Training Method, was truly efficient and a formidable shortcut. The cursed fox had at least one advantage. Naruto slightly bowed before her. "Let's make this battle memorable, Sakura-chan." She smiled. "I intend to, Naruto-kun." It was perhaps the time to impress her crush. The girl had never mustered the courage to ask the blonde out, but with the current situation, she had the feeling she would soon. I won't go easy on you," he said. "I know." A fact she secretly hated. Sakura had hoped Naruto would be a bit more gentlemanlike with her. "Begin!" Kakashi shouted. "Wind release, violent wind palm." The blonde boy clapped his hands together, and a powerful gale blew toward Sakura. "Water release, tornado of water." A spinning vortex of liquid, formed from the water her clones had gathered in a gourd, shielded her from the wind. The girl struggled to maintain the protection until the wind ceased to menace her, but Naruto fortunately ended his attack before her defense could crumble. She decided to attack. Water release, violent water wave. Water gushed out from the girl's mouth like a waterfall toward Naruto. Wind release, beast tearing palm. Summoning Chakra in his right hand, the blonde swung his arm. A wave of air sliced the jet of water, but did not reach Sakura. Naruto gritted his teeth. "Not strong enough." "Yet," Kakashi said. "You still lack in speed. By repeating the same moves again and again, your wind will soon be able to cut everything, even rock." "Well, at least it didn't cut me in half." Sakura shouted. "How was I, Kakashi-sensei?" She asked him, even though the real target of the question was Naruto. "Very good." He smiled. "Your progress is impressive. At this rate, I'm going to teach you a B-rank ninjutsu within the next days." She jumped on place. "I'm the best." Anyway, her sensei declared. "It's almost night. We stop for today. Tomorrow, we will practice these techniques again, until you're able to use them to their full potential." The students nodded, and began to walk on the way of Tazuna's house. Naruto approached her, and she did her best to maintain a confident facade. "You were great, Sakura-chan," he declared, smiling. "Way better than me." She smirked. "Thank you. You were good too." "Damn, that was lame." She had to ask him out. "Not as much as you," he said. "I must say that at first, I thought you would simply be a deadweight, but now, we're going to be a great team." Her blood froze, but she managed to hide it. Her crush had considered her a dropout? It was only now that he viewed her as competent? And his next words, she was simply a teammate for him. Sakura forced herself to smile, the smile her mother taught her to present every time she was unhappy. "You see, I'm going to be the first female Hokage ever. You will have to defeat me first." He shouted amicably. "From now on, we're rival for the title." Yes, rivals, the girl thought. Not friends. Her mother's last words filled her mind. Who would love a monster? The girl, Naruto. She got her wish. Naruto's clones vanished, and she attacked. Water release, snake's mouth. She transformed the water from the nearly river into a liquid snake, which tried to bite Naruto-sensei, who only moved his hands. Wind release, heat wave. A powerful hot gust of wind evaporated the snake, before sending Naruto flying away and crash on the grass. She rose up immediately, and the boss looked at her with concern. Are you hurt? He asked. Not at all, the girl replied. I have recuperated from my injuries, so it's no big deal. The furball has at least one use. A big fox roared in the back of her mind. She ignored it, beginning another jutsu. Water release, Stormy Blockade. Normally, this technique transformed the humidity in the air into concentrated liquid, but since Naruto did not have enough experience, she used the river again, forming a stream that flooded the clearing. Unfortunately, her teacher used his heat wave again and pushed the water back, much to her unhappiness. Your techniques are good, but too predictable, Naruto-sensei stated. Try to push your opponent toward the water, so you can enchain them faster and reduce your adversary's movements. Okay, the girl said. Next time, I will use my clones to push my enemies near a water source. The teenager nodded. Remember the scroll, water doesn't charge, it traps. He turned around and eyed his foxy double, who was still trying to reach the top of a tree, without much success. Are you still having problems? The voices are disturbing me, the boy answered, as he stared at the shaft. They are shouting in my mind, undoing my focus. Then tell them it's for their own good, Naruto-sensei put a palm on his shoulder. They will die with you, if you stay weak. They say they're strong enough, Kitsune replied, holding his head with his hands. They say I must rely on them, since they are me. Well, Naruto frowned, these voices are stupid. They got crushed by Amaterasu, and without Kakashi's help they would have lost against Kisame. They are strong, but not invincible. She hated to see someone being kept on leash like a dog, and especially by disembodied sounds. She's right, her teacher declared. You have to develop your own abilities if you want to survive against these enemies. He stayed silent a moment. The voices say that exceptionally, they will agree, as long as it is about destructive techniques. And about chakra control? They say I don't need it. They can fix that problem anytime they want. Naruto-sensei looked thoughtful. So that's why you were able to walk on water during your fight with Kisame, your inner demons were controlling your chakra. Kitsune nodded. But they say they can't help with the Kage Bunshin. Apparently, when I duplicate myself, I create doubles of them too, and without enough chakra to support them, the clones implode. Well, crap, the boss scowled. Since your werfox is strong on his own, why not teach you a few jutsu that could be used with it too? Like fire and wind techniques? So many options. Why not wait for tomorrow? His male student asked. The night is near. Ah. He trailed off, before observing the sky. You're unfortunately right. We'll continue the next day. The puppeteer, Shibaku. How was your training today? Kazama asked him, as soon as they entered the house. It was terrifying, the blonde puppeteer finally answered, and Sasori smirked, the creepy bastard. They had gone on a search of material, aka hunting human beings to transform them into living puppets. Gatos thugs, mostly, the sort of guys nobody was going to miss. Shibaku had done that many times, so it was something habitual. But this one day, Sasori had forced him to help with the procedure. Trying to dispel the disturbing memories of the last instance of these poor brigands, the boy decided to drop the subject. And yours? Useful, the teenager declared. First of all, we've all begun to practice some techniques, 2 from each scroll, and I have begun to practice the Azure Dragon's taijutsu style. The blonde puppeteer briefly noticed a glint of scorn within Kazama's eyes. I think that our accelerated training will allow us to master these jutsu within the 3 days before Kisame's team assault the bridge. Good, Sasori stated. Our counter to the Madara trio's intangibility will also be finished quickly. However, it's still a prototype, so I can't affirm it will work. Kabuto will be avenged, Shibaku promised. His assassins will pay. Well, it's better than nothing, the teenager replied. They reached the dining room, where everyone was waiting for them. The table was laid, and the trio sat. Soon, Tsunami came with the food and the rest of her family. The dinner went well. Sasuke was smirking and talking with Chibaka's normal and werfox selves, while Naruto was talking with Sakura about something girly, if their squeals were of any indication. Inari was sulking silently on a corner of the table, eyeing the blonde girl. Tazuna and Sasori were debating about the best way to construct bridges. Kakashi was reading porn, much to Tsunami's obvious displeasure. The blonde puppeteer wondered how the man could eat while reading, and then realized that the book was there to hide his mouth. The jerk had taken his mask off, but was dead set on keeping his whole face a mystery of the age. Tsunami's interactions with his older counterpart were truly funny. The woman was gazing at him sideways, and the young ninja was completely oblivious of her crush. Shibaku could understand the lady's actions. Her prey was handsome, cute, friendly, charismatic, and polite. A true gentleman. If he was more decisive, he would be a lady killer in no time. When she got up to bring the dessert, Shibaku approached Kazama. "When are you going to make a pass at our hostess?" He locked eyes with him, frowning questioningly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Damn, you can't be that dense," the blonde puppeteer whispered. "Just look at her, she has been eyeing you since the beginning of the dinner." "She's hitting on you." "She's more than 10 years older than I am," the teenager pointed out. "And looks doesn't equal to attraction." Chwaku rolled his eyes. "You can't be that naive, and who cares about her age? Experienced women are always out for young blood. She's a babe. You're a handsome teenager with hormones. Get to work." "And what am I supposed to tell her?" he replied, slightly blushing. The puppeteer rolled his eyes. "Let me guess, you have never been on a date with a girl before?" The teenager's obvious embarrassment gave him his needed answer. The boy put his hands together. He called that the Sasori's lecture pose. Compliment her. Praise her courage, her looks, whatever. Not too much, but enough to flatter her. Ask questions about her personally, show interest in her. Believe me, these tricks always work. And may I ask, how do you know that? Shibaku grinned sheepishly. Well, one of Sasori's agents detailed them to me, after his last researches, if you see what I mean. It was the worst day in my entire life, the day you developed a perverted streak. I already told you, I'm not a pervert. The tailed beast snorted. Still in denial, as I see. Ignoring the creature, the blonde puppeteer noticed Tsunami returning, and stared at his counterpart. Make me proud. Make us all proud. What are you talking about? The woman asked as she sat beside Kazama, giving him her best smile. Well, we were talking about you, the puppeteer interrupted the teenager. Kazama-san was amazed by your cooking skills. Really? She asked, raising her eyebrows. Yes, Naruto's double nodded vehemently. I really like it. In fact, I wonder where you learned to prepare these wonderful meals. Tsunami reddened at the compliment. It is natural, but I think I began to. And the conversation continued, much to Chibaku's amusement. While he knew Tsunami won't score with the teenager, since they would probably leave this world soon, it was still fun to see that attraction could blossom everywhere, even if it was temporary. He quickly noticed someone else observing the scene. Hidden behind his Ika book, Kakashi Hatake was eyeing the pair with interest. Chibaku approached him. Happy of what you see? The jounin sniffed. Youngsters grow up so fast nowadays. It's like an adaptation of a scene from Ika. That smut? The puppeteer asked. Life doesn't work like that. They won't go from flirting to get to bed in one night. It's a slow process, guy. I know, he said. I did date a girl before, someone called Rin. I even considered marrying her. What happened? An old enemy of mine murdered her to break me down. The statement was laced with a faint taint of sadness. Her death is one of the many failures in my life. I see, the puppeteer said lamely. Sorry to have reopened an old wound. You couldn't know, he replied reassuringly. I only hope you and your friends won't suffer as I had. We're a band of outcasts, with varying consequences, Chibaku stated. We have all experienced pain. That's what made us strong. Kitsune's case blows this reasoning up, Kakashi said. Pain always breaks. How you reconstruct yourself after hardships is what truly matters. Some people became better persons after suffering, some go mad, some abandon morality for a destructive lifestyle, and some never fully recover. I'm a typical example of the last category. He eyed the werfox in human form. Friends are here to help with this reconstruction. If you hadn't come to his help, he might have evolved into a monster. That's why we will always be there for him, Chibaku declared. The man nodded. It's strange to talk psychology at a dinner. Yes, the boy replied, as he began to eat again. Let's return to our two lovebirds. I have an idea to help him subtly. The Jonin stared at him questioningly, and Chibaku explained him his plan. The normal. And then I punched him in the jaws, Sasuke explained. After he fell, I kicked him in the balls so hard that his grandchildren must have felt it. But then I rose up and gave him a good head but in the torso, Naruto continued, explaining how his first fight with Sasuke went. Then, the battle evolved into a savage brawl. I don't even remember how we ended bruised on the ground, but we did, the Uchiha said, as he drank another glass. After that, we connected, or something. You mean, you became friends? Kitsune asked. Yep, Naruto said. We took the habitude of hanging out together. Mostly to train, but sometimes to eat or to do other activities. He smirked. In fact, I was the only guy willing to pass the day with him. Yeah, I needed a punching bag, and I found one. How could I have wasted it? The Uchiha deadpanned. That, and you weren't allowed fangirl. He scowled. You can't know how much I hate these creatures. Hey, I had some back in the academy, the blonde boy pointed out. But they abandoned you once you graduated. They're still after me. Say that to Hinata, he replied. Man, she's stalking me, and it is creepy. Sasuke snorted, and Kitsune seemed to stiffen. Naruto eyed him. Did I say something wrong? He shook his head. No. It's bad to lie, the genin replied. What's the problem? He seemed really uncomfortable with the question. A friend of I was called Hinata. Was? The two ninjas blinked. Is she dead? Yes, the strange boy muttered. I don't want to talk about it. At that moment, Naruto felt a string of sympathy for the boy. Having been an orphan, he knew how much friends were precious. He didn't know what he would act if Sasuke ever died, but he had the feeling it wouldn't be pretty. The Uchiha gazed at Kitsune with a nostalgic look. It's a thing we have in common. He joined his fingers together. Naruto recognized the gesture, the I must avenge my clan pose. I have, too, lost people close to me. The young boy nodded, before smiling sadly. At least they continue to live, within our hearts. Yes, the Uchiha replied. They're always with us. Always. The traveler, Kazama. I must say, Kazama-san, Tsunami began, that I still don't understand why you're helping the land of waves. We don't have anything to give you. Kazama smirked. Simply seeing you people happy is enough, Tsunami-san. Your pretty smile is the only payment I need. She blushed a bit, before smiling at him. Is that what you want? Yes, he said. It was still strange, flirting with a woman probably 15 years older than him. Not that he really complained. Tsunami was beautiful and kind, and in a way, Kazama was happy to receive such attention. It's just that he had no idea how to react to her advances. His only romantic interactions with the other gender were with Sakura, who generally punched him as soon as he opened his mouth. now that someone seemed genuinely interested in him. "Kazama-san," Tsunami whispered. "How old are you?" "Crap. 18, he lied. In fact, he was 16, but really looked older than he was. He didn't know how Tsunami would react if she learned she was hitting on a minor. She simply nodded, believing him. "Just what I expected." "And you?" he asked. 29, Tsunami answered. She was younger than Kazama had expected. It's not really polite to ask a lady her age. It's just that you look in your early 20s, the teenager replied. "Thank you." She smiled. "Are you hitting on me, by the way?" "Well, I was wondering the same thing, since I noticed you looking at me sideways," he pointed out, and she reddened a bit. "Is there another reason?" He was now sure that his puppeteer self's intuitions weren't exact. "Too bad." Tsunami muttered. "The way you act, it's like my dead husband." Kazama's blood froze. She sees Kaiza in me? Who was he? The teenager asked, even if he was already aware of the answer. A hero, the woman answered. He helped people without expecting something in return, and sacrificed his life for the land of waves. You have both the same personality. But I'm not him, he pointed out. No, she agreed, drinking a glass. No, you aren't. A beautiful music interrupted the awkward silence. They were two lovebirds. A boy and a girl. The girl wanted to jump the boy's bones, but he was too shy. He should praise her, talk to her. What? Chibaku asked, as Kazama glared at him. What's wrong with singing a serenade at this exact moment? Kakashi nodded, continuing playing banjo. Wait, how did he get one in the first place? The teenager wondered. It's free speech. It's totally not a subtle and highly efficient plot to help you woo a girl far older than you, Kazama-san. Kazama resisted the urge to facepalm. Anyway, the blonde puppeteer claimed, let's return to our musical show. He should flatter her, tell her how much he loved her. Living in the past is not a good thing, Tsunami-san, Kazama whispered to the woman, ignoring the two idiots singing beside him, who were completely misinterpreting the conversation. I have made this mistake for a long time, and now I realize how much it was a loss of time. She frowned at him angrily. What is wrong with remembering about the dead? It's wrong when they stop you from moving on, he answered. The memories of the deceased is important, but they shouldn't govern our life. Images of Sasuke filled the teenager's mind. A friend of mine made the same error, and it ruined his life. I am not talking about forgetting Kaiza completely, but you shouldn't project him onto others. Otherwise, you are doomed to loneliness, since your husband was unique. You won't find someone exactly like him. She stayed silent a moment, before nodding. You're right. He should take her hand, take her hand. Thank you for your advice, Tsunami said. Kazama smiled. It was a pleasure. I hope you find love again, one day. He should kiss her, kiss her, kiss her. I think you have more chances than I, Kazama-san, she replied, standing up. With a little more attitude, you could be a real lady killer. He grinned sheepishly. I haven't had much such success, yet. Then consider me as your first conquest, Tsunami declared. She approached her mouth, and kissed him on the forehead. The blushing boy heard the two singers squeal behind him. Once you really hit 18, she said, making Kazama redden even more. Come to see me. I will be happy to give you a chance. She left the dining room, the stare of the teenager following her. But then the two idiots ruined his mood. You see, my plan worked. Infuriated, Kazama glanced sideways at the duo, and dropped his jaw. Oh, great god of romance, Kakashi declared, kneeling before Chibaku, your humble servant begs you to teach him the secret of your success. he showed him the banjo. Please, accept this object as an offering. Yes. The boy shouted. I already have one follower. Horny teenagers and closet perverts, worship me. Honor my name, and you shall obtain what you want, a reluctant kiss. Kazama sighed. You're driving me insane. Both of you. The girl, Naruto. The view was beautiful. Thousands of stars were illuminating the sky, and the moon was completely full. Light and darkness were cohabiting in a perfect harmony. That's great, Naruto declared, as she sat to observe the celestial luminaries. She and Sakura were on the roof of the house, alone. Wonderful, her newest friend agreed. When I was young, the old man would come and explain me where to look for the constellations. I have always been fascinated by the sky. It's incredible, the demon vessel said, to think that the stars were already looking at the first man, and would continue to observe the earth long after we're gone. Thinking like that makes us look like mayflies. Sakura smiled. But life is beautiful because it ends one day. Yes, the other girl replied. Eternity just seems plain boring to me. A light crossed the skies. Naruto got up. A falling star. She stared at Sakura. Have you made a wish? She nodded. And you? The demon vessel smiled. I asked for a perfect future, for all of us. That's a good wish, the girl said lamely. Mine is a bit more selfish. Naruto raised her eyebrows questioningly. I wished for my mother to come back. The blonde girl paled, before sitting beside Sakura. How was she? She was kind and gentle, the girl whispered sadly. She was always there to console me after the other children had bullied me. She was always there to help me, to comfort me when I was afraid. How did she die? Naruto asked. Disease, the girl said, looking at the sky. One day, she became ill, and her condition worsened over a month, until she died. That's sad, the blonde muttered. I never had any parents, so I can't really understand what you went through, but I can imagine. You have my support. Thanks. She seemed happy, and then turned around. Naruto imitated her. Inari was looking at them with a strange face. Sorry to have interrupted you, he said. I was going there to watch the sky, and I overheard your conversation. He sat between them. I didn't know what you went through, the boy declared to Naruto. So, excuse me for my words, last time. No big deal, she replied, waving her hand. I'm not bitter. He smiled a bit, and stared at the moon. I have too lost a parent, so I know your pain. The girls eyed him. He wasn't my father by blood, but it didn't matter, he explained. He was a fisherman named Kaisa. He saved me from drowning, and I don't know how, but we went along well. He quickly became a member of the family, and married Mom. His expression turned into one of sadness. When Gato came, Kaisa tried to stop him. Gato captured him and killed him in public. Sakura put a hand on his shoulder. Gato will pay for what he had done to your countrymen. He can't be stopped, Inari said. I thought heroes existed in this world, saving people from monsters, but in real life, the monsters are the winners. Naruto bit her lower lip and rose up. She had reached a decision. Inari, she told him, when we will have finished our training, we will attack Gato. Gato. Not by creating a bridge, but by bringing him to the justice of Wave's citizens. And we will succeed. He stared at her with skepticism. How can you be so confident? Because, Naruto explained, heroes do exist, and I intend to prove it. The deceiver, Tsukiyomi. In a large town, somewhere on the continent, a deicide had occurred, within a tower under the rain. The night had been bloody, and a god had fallen. The ruler of Amagakure, Pain, had died, and nobody was aware of his disappearance. The bodies he had been controlling ceased to function the second Nagato's heart stopped beating. His loyal teammate, Konan, was lying beside his corpse, having used the last seconds of her life to crush the Rinnegan, preventing their killers from obtaining the precious bloodline. Two masked men looked emotionlessly at the former leaders of Rain. They were disappointed and restless. So, Amaterasu said, "This is what my Nagato could have been if the Rinnegan had matured under his possession." I expected more. Tsukiyomi shook his head, putting his foot on the handicapped man's head. The statue of the outer path destroyed much of his abilities, and without me to guide him, he never achieved true greatness. My Nagato was a force to be reckoned with, not this, indignity. But now we're sure that our counterpart died in this world at some point, his counterpart stated. Probably against the Yondaime Hokage, since the Kyuubi still attacked Konoha. Tsukiyomi nodded. He glanced sideways at a materializing Susanoo. Have you located them? No, he answered. They are not in Konoha. I visited every damn street, read the mind of everyone worth interrogating, searched for their chakra everywhere, and nothing. He briefly eyed the two cadavers. It seems that gruesome killings are a specialty of ours. Are they these kids from the Akatsuki? Yes, Tsukiyomi confirmed. Yahiko died in this world, and the duo took over Amagakure after killing Hanzo. We tried to speak with them, and once they answered our questions and refused our propositions of alliance, a fight erupted, which they lost. I see. Susanoo whispered. What about our counterpart? They never met him, Amaterasu explained. We didn't sense him warping space, because, well, he's probably dead. Since these two confirmed the attack of the Kyuubi, then it was probably against the Yondaime Hokage. The fallen Uchiha blinked. A pity. But it was expected. This man was the only ninja strong enough to rival us after the Shodaime's death. You said they refused an alliance? Tsukiyomi chuckled. They were uninterested. Of course, when we decided that a second set of Rinnegan was too precious to be wasted, we attacked, but that chick, he had Konan, destroyed the eyes before we could extract them. Unfortunately, they hadn't gathered the criminal Akatsuki yet, so we do not have any servant to recruit. Susanoo snorted. So, our problems are still the same? We're only 3, and we have no idea where our targets are. Until the traveler uses his power to alter space, we can't track him down. Amaterasu nodded. If only we had spies. He trailed off. Suddenly, an idea came to Tsukiyomi's mind. The Uchiha stared at a window, where he could see the clouded skies. The rain was falling, crying over the world's eternal suffering. The heavens were mourning their messiah. I almost forgot how much the rain loved this country, he whispered. It is washing away mankind's sins, Susanoo said, eyeing the sky. Rivers of blood will be purified, before the battle begins anew. But no matter how much heavens will cry, Amaterasu declared, staring at the clouds too, war will never end. Conflict is the essence of humanity, the primal instinct, that exists within all of us. Tsukiyomi chuckled. Be wary, Hashirama must be glaring at you from the afterlife. He was a great man, the warrior said. He had a conviction and the will to defend it, even if it turned out to be false. Peace is an illusion, as man can only strive through war and competition. Explain, Tsukiyomi asked. People have desires. They want to eat, they want pleasures, riches or power. But there isn't enough resources on this earth to satisfy everyone. So, men have to compete for them. The winners are the strongest, the most cunning, the most determined, and they improve humanity as a whole by culling the weak. The deceiver observed him for a moment. It's a thing we do not agree on. Then in what do you believe? In inequality, he declared. People follow a herd mentality. They obey because they fear what they don't control, they try to stop the future, to stop change. The masses only live to lift up the few exceptional men or women that decide to make their own choices. You, me, the Shodaime, Naruto Uzumaki, we are all exceptional, because we resisted the tyranny of the many and struggled to shape the world into our image. But there is so many obstacles, so many talents are wasted, because they don't have proper guides. That's why prodigies should help each other, instead of competing. Enslaving the many will give us the resources we need, and peace will finally be achieved under the rule of the few. Amaterasu chuckled, before looking at Susanoo. And you? I believe in fate, the ninja with the Rinnegan replied. I believe that man does not control his future, and that our destiny is decided at birth. History repeats itself, like an endless cycle, and multiple prophecies have been realized. The Uchiha's fate is to destroy the Senju, and I will accomplish it. Izuna prophesied I would bring forth an everlasting peace and a true utopia, a world where those destined to rule will shape a golden age, and that future, I promise to realize it on my brother's deathbed. An uneasy silence filled the room. Izuna. I wonder if in one alternate universe, our counterpart saved him from the claws of death, Amaterasu whispered. I hope to see him again one day, Tsukiyomi declared. In this world or in the next. With the Uzumaki's help, Susanoo said, this hope can become a reality. Yes, the deceiver replied, looking at the clouds that would help them locate Uzumaki Naruto. We will see Izuna again, and realize his dreams, even if we have to burn the world trying. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.